Yes, I've got a few more images on me in my albums, that I need to get rid of. I am going to move on to biblical sites, and it's probably the reason why someone's just made a video on concrete, which I will get on about at the end. But I've noticed these before, and I've seen them before. These are what they call Etruscan, and there's a few of these in the completely buried, and they do apparently look like they were hit with some type of pyroclastic flow. These will have been concrete blocks, and it's superheated hash has just come in and just hammered this place, and that's why you get ash embedded in it, and some of it's ran out of it from rainwater. You can see it. They're not been rock cutting these blocks and fitting them together, okay? But it's the domes that I wanted to show you more than anything, because you can see it's concrete. It's just been hit with superheated ash. But it's this thing. This will have had iron beams or steel running all the way around this, right? But when you actually look at this, because yes, concrete, for some reason, some of it does last a hell of a long time. Whether or not there's some secret mix we're not told about, which I don't really think it's that. I just think that this stuff has been submerged for a long time, and when it talks about 40 days, I think it was a lot more than 40 days, people. A day with the Lord is 1,000 years, and it could be something like 40,000 years. I mean, this entire thing could have been under soil, under silt at one time, yeah, kept out of the air. And as it's exposed to the air, it will start to erode. But underneath all this stuff, you can see bricks, right? It is actually built with bricks, smothered in a concrete, right? But this is exactly built the same way as the dome, the Pantheon, which when I was at school growing up, they told us that this had never been done before. Yeah, and the largest open top roof, concrete, and they gave you a description of how this was built, and that they had no idea, and it's never been repeated since. This is what they call the Temple of Mercury, and this is another one. I think this is actually older. It will be older. It's even got those steps on this side of it, same as the Pantheon dome. This is what it looks like inside. This is a closer image of this, because this will, and we can see it's actually been built with rebar, right? You can actually see the shape of how this thing was put together in sections and rebar. And it's ancient concrete, which lasts a hell of a long time. That's another one that looks almost exactly the same as the Pantheon here, yeah. But it's this area that I want to show you here, because I think that this entire area here was once enclosed. You see how this is built here? This will have been exactly the same all the way down here, right? These may actually be solid type of blocks, because these aren't. These are completely hollow inside. I think these have got iron bars that run down the middle. In one of the earlier videos I made, I showed you how these things were actually hollow. I showed you a video where somebody placed a playing card inside a cracked area, and it went all the way inside. It's a type of like crushed stone, crushed granite, mixed in some mixture that makes it look like granite, yeah. And the fingerprints for how this may have been an enclosed building, and you see this area here. Well, I'll move on. think the entire thing, all this is actually built from wood, right? All this is wood. The entire thing is built from wood, right? You can see how these pillars were actually rough. This is an old image. You can see how they're rough. And, you see that section there that's been repaired because it is hollow. All this is wood here. You see that section there? Yeah. Those cross beams will have ran through here. Right. And because it's not a natural block of, a natural block of granite, it cracks away, doesn't it? But again, this is an old image, and you can see how it's all lumpy because they have repaired this since that, that one's the same, which is on the next image here. Yeah, this is an old photo again, but if you compare how these look here compared to these pillars here, these are completely smooth and shiny. So somebody knows about this mixture even today, or they did do then. But it doesn't last that long because it has since begun to erode away again, hasn't it? I've just pointed it out to you. This has some blocks on a megalithic wall. This is Ollantaytambo in Peru, and this is again going back to the crushed granite, and it's some type of mixture which holds it together, because natural granite never erodes in this pattern, half an inch at a time, does it? Ever. And just look at what it looks like underneath. There is no grain or pattern to this stone. It is reconstituted granite, however it's done. This is the Pantheon. It doesn't look like this now, but you can clearly see how it is in fact wood. Yeah, it's a pitched roof, built like churches were, and it's built from wood. These pillars are hollow. These cross sections are wood, very similar to what I'm going to show you now. This workshop here is actually, these are actually for the some pillars that's at St. Petersburg. I showed you them earlier, but it's just built in the exact same fashion. That's why I've put them in. So these are made out, made from wood, and they will put normally some black lacquer over them. Okay, that makes them look like stone, hard stone. This is the dome roof at the Pantheon. Right, and I know before I even researched for this video that this is actually built from wood, all this, and then it's got a covering over it, some type of hard concrete which lasts a long time, because this next image shows you without any doubt, this old image, from the dome roof, is showing you that the covering is only about half an inch thick, and under it is wood. If you're going to inspect any of these images on the Google page, come and inspect this one. Yeah, so they said they had no idea how this was built. But when you look at this image, it's pretty obvious actually that this was built first. This was built first. Then they built the wooden roof support, and then laid the concrete over it. Okay, so there's no great mystery. It's spectacular, but there's no mystery anymore. And it's concrete, which lasts a hell of a long time. That's where we've just been looking at. Those are those pillars that are proving to you that it's not natural granite. And look at it, it's built from brick and concrete and wood, just like any Roman, so-called Roman structures were. Whatever the Romans were, whether they were actually pre-human, yeah, you know, like we are human, they might have been Roman, because something's not right about all this stuff. Look, this is Greek, and you can see that this is wood. It will have had metal in it as well, and as it's rusted away, it's made all this fail, right? And it's collapsed out and rusted away as rainwater has been, you know, seeping through somewhere. But you can see how thick it is. It's about ½ inch thick, and it's got some plaster over it, which again, because these are wooden lats, it's just wooden lats. It's not stone, right? It's plaster. This was some restoration work in Rome, the old town, and what appears to be built from blocks is actually wood underneath. Okay. The whole of St. Petersburg is built like that. This is St. Petersburg, and this is in the main square somewhere, but again, it got damaged. Somebody luckily took a photograph of it, and you can see how it's, well, it's more than likely some type of paper mache over, you know, some type of structure. They'll put paper mache over it, and then they will layer it in this black stuff, you know, which no stone is black anyway. They're pretending that it's basalt, but it's not. It's just some type of lacquer, yeah, which lasts a long time. This thing in India, I'm starting to think that this might actually be ebony. Yeah, I just think it's just ebony wood. Another Roman site showing you that it's some type of thin surface over this concrete pillar, and how everything is built from brick. Don't want to get too much into that because I've done that already on my previous videos on Roman structures, but this is Baalbek, and take a close look at this stuff, right? Because this is concrete, and this stuff lasts a hell of a long time intact. Yeah, there's a difference in cement and concrete. Okay. And as they were pressing this stuff into shape, well, they probably had something like a wooden core about this big, and they will have been pouring concrete into it, and as it hardened, they raised it up and then poured some more, and all the finer granules leach to the outside, and then they're able to paint this white. This is Carthage, right? And this is concrete, which predates anything Roman, and it's absolutely rock solid. It's a lot, it lasts longer than Portland cement, right? So all you shills out there, you know who I'm talking about. It's you that needs to do some research, because you keep embarrassing yourself. The next video I'll probably do, I've got an album on star forts, because this is concrete, and this is what actually covers all star forts that are still buried, not the ones that have been built up on, right? This is what covers all star forts, and it's concrete. Okay, just a quick one to expand on what I was talking about with polygonal walls and what appears to be the process in what has made some of these walls, which were bags. We concluded that they were sacks, at least this wall and some others anyway, but it is actually pretty obvious when you look at this. Like, these will be the corners of the sack, yeah, and you can see the arch there. This is broken away, and you know, this does not happen to natural stone, does it? This type of thing, it is some type of either calcification from being under the ocean and build up, and then it dries out, or it's, I think it's mainly like when you've got like a concrete, either the sand or the lime gets sucked to the outside and forms a hard surface. And you know, you can clearly see from the colour of it. Whether or not this stuff has got, you know, andesite or diorite on it makes no difference to me. Yeah, you know, science has not explained everything by any means whatsoever. They're full of shit. So whether or not this has got, you know, a few particles of diorite or andesite in it, yeah, which concludes to them that it's andesite, is garbage, because I can see what it is. It's got sand coming out of it. It looks like concrete because it is, and it behaves like concrete. This is a sack. You can even see the arch underneath there, like a bag, yeah. And this is just build up naturally, right, from calcification. It arches like a bag, and that's it there. Okay, but what I've been talking about obviously doesn't explain all these walls, but even still, you know, I mean, how would a bag do this? But I'm going to show you. You see these shapes here, how this angles out like that, yeah? You see how it angles out and forms that shape there, yeah? Because independent researchers think that this is mainly done by laser or geopolymer. I'm going to get into that, but the geopolymer they're talking about is literally melting a stone. Well, stone doesn't melt, does it? Now, you might be able to remelt basalt and turn it into a liquid form, but that's all. Because it just turns into like a slag, doesn't it? Just the reason why I'm making this video is I found a few images, and I ain't going to touch on this again for a long time. I'm going to move on. I think I'm going to move on to biblical sites. Just make videos on specific areas for a while instead of jumping all over the place. But you see these like a cross pattern, yeah? This wall is in Peru, okay, and you can see it's like an egg box type style, like this is a sack, yeah. Obviously this is worn down over time, but you can literally see the shape of the sack end. These will have been laid down sideways, yes, you know, you can see it on them all. So this is more proof of what I'm talking about, that they've been done with sacks. This is something modern, right? And the shapes that I've just shown you, can you see how they angle out and make the exact same shape on the ends? This is building a, you know, a retaining wall, literally with concrete sacks, right? You can see how the sack, you know, the paper has eroded away, right? And it hardens into a hard concrete, but it's the shapes that I'm showing you, which was the same as this, yeah? So it's just something for you to go look at. This is another retaining wall built from concrete bags, right? Obviously slightly different, but it is literally built from concrete bags, and you know, and that's how you get them hair tight, where you can't fit a human hair between it, okay? This is in Turkey, and you can clearly see, whether people like it or not, that this was once concrete. It's just turned into limestone because most of the sand comes out of it, and it hardens over time in a natural process. It's concrete, anyone can see that, and that's how you get these shapes, and it angles out in the same shape that I've just been showing you. A comment one of the subscribers on the last videos when I were dealing with this put me onto this. They were talking about how sandbags from World War One had literally hardened into stone. Obviously these aren't, it was just an example, but these have gone, turned into rock almost. And that's without even putting lime in them, right? This is in Greece, and I touched on this when I was doing polygonal wall videos about a month ago. But I believe, and I know I'm absolutely correct, that this was in fact once a solid concrete wall. This wall, when built, was one piece laid, right, poured, right, and it was a full solid wall at one time, and these cracks have been formed over time naturally from earthquakes, wars and whatever. And you can look around here and see where new cracks, right, are starting to appear, which will eventually look like that they have built this wall and fitted them together and all this, but they haven't, and you can see it's concrete. This side's got more lime in it. There's more sand here. This is in Turkey or Greece anyway. Obviously this is from the time of giants, and this again is concrete. Look at all these stones here that's been mixed in this mix. But it's this area that I'm showing you. You can see how these edges, I'm going to show you something modern that's very similar, because I've told you that everything we have today is knowledge from the past, learnt from old records, archaeological sites and things like that, yeah. Every single building method as well, mainly. But can you see these rims? This confused me for a long time, this did. All these blocks have got this like pattern rim around the edge, and this is building with, like sandbags again, concrete put into, but these are like long bags, and they will form this pan. So after 1,000 years, what do you think this would look like? And what kind of stone would this form into? I didn't write the name down of this, but this is a site in Egypt. But I mean, why does this look like this? Is it something similar? And look, why is it in sections like that? That is confusing. I know it's dipping up and down like that. It's something similar to what I've just shown you. This is called crib wall. Crib walling, yeah, it's concrete. And when I saw this, it's similar to the rebar structures that I've shown you. I mean, a lot of the time I label things rebar when much of it is actually stuff like this as well. But when I saw this, I knew how the huge pyramids at Teotihuacan were built, right? Take a good look at that. And now they pour concrete into here, right? And you see these things that stick out, and it eventually looks like this, and this forms rock solid. And then you could literally form something over this or leave it, because the pyramid at Teotihuacan, these huge sun pyramids, yeah, and the moon pyramid and what have you, as actually, it doesn't show you on this image, I couldn't be bothered finding it, but they have actually got all over these pyramids, there are these little nodules, yeah. And I think that, again, it's a method that's been learned from this era, and I think it's actually crib wall building, and that's why you get all these lines like this, yeah, which various eras have cleaned away much of the rubble and formed these shapes. You can look, you can see that the original pyramid was actually much wider. Yeah, it may have actually been smooth. Well, it will have been smooth at one time. Yeah, but as it's got soft, you know, various peoples have cleaned it away and formed this shape. And okay, this is Ollantaytambo, and it's this block here that I'm showing you. This is way down the mountain. It's fallen out of the wall, and you can see that this must have been soft because it's got little ridges on it. On the ends it's ridges. Yeah, look, this block has not been lasered or CNC imaged to fit into a wall with all these pans. I can absolutely guarantee you. In fact, you can see that it was actually soft at one time, and that's why it's shinier on the edges, yeah, where more pressure has been pushed into it, and the finer grains have pushed to the outside, and that's why it's shiny. But again, this is not geopolymer. This is something similar to concrete, where they've been crushing stone, whether it's andesite, diorite, granites, yeah, and then mixing it in some mix which was probably with lime. This is different. I mean, obviously this is not a concrete sack, is it? A sandbag. This looks like a frame in here, actually. It looks like some type of frame is in here that's just got calcified over time. Yeah, you see that? It's like a frame, and stone's just formed over it. Yeah, so to me, there is a type of geopolymer. It's just not this type that they keep pushing, melting of stone. It's bullshit. And if you go look into it yourself, you'll be able to debunk it in no time at all. Again, this is calcification, so this was built, and you know, stones built up. There was blocks laid here, and enough time went by when it was underwater or whatever that it built this up over the top of it naturally. Anyway, we'll move on, because this is natural granite. This is what natural granite looks like. It's got all this grain in it and this natural pattern. Okay, yeah, so that's what natural granite looks like, because this is not natural granite. This to me is again, it's crushed granite mixed in some mixture with lime or something. I'm not quite sure. I just know it's a mixture, and that's why it's all these fine granules and looks like nothing carved away from a mountain, and why you get these little holes in it. And even where they've cut this shape out here, or printed it as it was soft, it looks like sand under it. That's why it looks different underneath. Just like this, I've seen this in real life. It's in the British Museum. It even looks like it was stuck together in sections. This, you see that line down there, it runs all the way down there. But again, it's in it, you know, it looks like coloured sand, doesn't it? It's not natural granite at all. The so-called quarry at Aswan. Now look, I've shown you that this is a fingerprint of a giant, but the geologists as well tell people that this is granite, and it's not. It's the exact same stuff, and you can see it is because where they've been pulling this up like that. Look, it looks like sand, doesn't it, really? Yeah, it looks like metamorphosized, heated crushed sand that has just gone hard over time. It's exactly what it looks like. Look at it. Look at the colour. Yes, these are our fingerprints, okay? But just look at the colour of this. Yeah. As you know, I make videos on prehistory and mud fossils, but this is something that I kind of keep to myself. But I'm just going to show you a few images, quite a few, and maybe a video, and it's to do with the fact that maybe it seems like that we've probably been lied to, like I keep saying about everything. But like I said on that video, we've all seen this. I live in England and I see this in London and all the major cities. In fact, I know it's in France. This is St. Petersburg. It's everywhere. Even the original cities in Japan, which were no different to European cities actually, which have since been ripped down for some reason, right? But these windows, they didn't just build like this, I can tell you, right? You don't just build something like this with windows here, right? So then it can get flooded and rain come in. These structures have been buried, and sometimes more than, higher than half of the level that they originally were. And even bridges, right, that just don't seem the right height, yeah, that are completely buried. But I'll just show you some images and I'll show you what I mean. Like this one, yeah. I'm just, you've seen this yourself, and then they get remodified, like that's been knocked through, okay? This type of thing, if you go out in any major city, you will see it yourself. And what I'm getting at, it seems like that things have completely started again. We've just repopulated. We've repopulated the land and rebuilt and painted and plastered over what was left after this event is what I'm talking about. There's stuff like this all over. Don't be thinking that for some reason so-called primitive people have just come and just dug down, right, all the way down here and built this for it to get flooded. If you're thinking that, you need to think again. It's ridiculous, but that's what mainstream archaeology will tell you. And I'm saying, no, it's not. This is an entire city that runs under these fields, just like anywhere else on the world, for miles. These are cities underground, just like all the cities, these so-called underground cities, yeah, in Turkey. They were above ground at one time. All of them were. Right? And Rome, I touched on this before, Rome was built over the top of a so-called star fort, yes, which are pre-human structures, okay? There can't have been giants that built these things, because they weren't, they're not much different to brick built structures to how we build, but they're extremely advanced, right? Knowledge of geometry and all sorts, and organization in how these things were built. And even here, I'll show you more images on this, but a third of them have all been wiped out by water. Again, just because these are wiped out by water doesn't mean that they were destroyed in the flood. It just means that the later flood wiped much of these earlier structures out, yeah? And then humans have come and populated many of them, right? But they're in every single country on Earth. Every single country on Earth. This is Rome, right? And you can clearly see there's a star fort there, and it's built over the top of a star fort. Say fort, they're not forts, okay? I don't know what they were, probably something to do with energy and the generation of frequency, okay? But these are built over. That's an early plan of Rome, and St. Petersburg even. Yeah, all the major cities, all of them, are all built over these types of structures, right? You know, because most structures, right, were all built from rubble, like I keep getting on about, you know. They're all built from rubble, from this kind of stuff being smashed down, yeah? Why would you go and quarry if you didn't have technology like we didn't when we first got put here? We were building from rubble, from these things. This is Rome, right? And it's obvious that there's an older structure that's buried mainly underground, right? But they've been building from rubble from these structures, because that's what this is. And the Romans built from brick and clay and inferior concrete, like I've shown you before. They weren't able to move anything megalithic, and they did not have technology to cut through hard stone or anything like that. The other thing I want to point out, this is the Last Supper, obviously, right? And I want you to look at how degraded this painting is, yeah? And it's been looked after. You know, they're trying to stop it from falling apart anymore. They keep, you know, restoring it and painting over it with various things. But, well, that's a close-up of an area. But then I want you to compare that type of painting, yeah, to this stuff, yeah, and then I want you to work out why does this look in better condition, like most of these Egyptian paintings do, right, than a lot of European paintings, okay? And again, this is not the work of technologically advanced people, is it? No, it's not. This is not that old, right? And if you're thinking, well, it's inside a tomb, none of it's a tomb, for one thing. I'll get into that later. But either way, these places are damp, right? And I'm going to prove that all these are actually knocked out of mud, clay, when all this stuff was buried. That's why they were able to tunnel these things out, because it's done in clay. So all this would get damp, yeah, and all this would fall off. This stuff is not that old, people. A bit like these coins, you know. I find coins from only a few decades old, a few, you know, 100 years old, and they don't look much different to this. This is St. Petersburg, and this is what I was showing you. This is across every single major city across the world. I'll show you a video shortly. And another question I'm asking, right, is these, I think these were actually the last humanoids to be wiped out on this earth, and then, you know, they were replaced by us, okay? These are across the whole world, but these aren't that old, are they? I don't care where they've been buried, in sand or in a box. If they've still got skin over their bones and it's still rotting away, these things are not that old. I don't care where they've been buried, people, and what conditions they're in. These are not that old. Certainly not thousands of years. Because where I'm getting is that the so-called Dark Ages is bullshit, right? They're talking about 1,000 years of missing history, yeah? Well, I'm saying that history hasn't been missing. I'm saying that that's where humans started their history. It's probably about 800, no more than 1,000 years ago, we've been here. This stuff is not that old, I'm telling you. Either the Dark Ages are complete bullshit and our history started around 800 years ago, or this was the Dark Ages after this human event, and then time stopped for 1,000 years, and then we picked up where we left off and replastered and repainted these places, yeah, which is just a few hundred years ago, a couple of 100 years ago only.